Time now for Eye on Africa. The headlines. Uganda's opposition leader appears in court once more. He's charged with treason in the wake of a disputed election. More peacekeepers for the UN's deadliest mission. They're heading for Mali to combat the ongoing threat posed by jihadists. We meet Nigerian author Chigozie Obioma. He's been here in Paris as his Man Booker prize-winning novel comes out in French. But we start in Uganda, where opposition leader Kizza Besigye has again appeared in court, charged with treason. Besigye, who claimed fraud after coming second in February's presidential election, was arrested last month for holding a mock swearing-in ceremony. Critics of long-serving President Ivory Museveni say Besigye has been the victim of a long campaign of intimidation. France 24's Nicolas Jamat has more.
Ugandan opposition leader Kizza Besigye is used to being in police vehicles. He's been arrested many times. On Wednesday, he appeared in court once again. He's accused of treason.
So I'm extremely concerned by the delay in ending the investigations in this case. I pointed out further that I am concerned about threats to my life.
The court gave the state 2 weeks to conclude investigations in the case. Besigye claimed fraud after coming second in February's presidential election. Last month, he was arrested for holding a mock swearing-in ceremony. The real ceremony with Yoweri Museveni took place the next day. Museveni has been in power for 30 years. Besigye used to be his personal doctor. But for nearly 2 decades now, he's been Uganda's prominent opposition leader. Over the years, he's been put in jail frequently, placed under house arrest, accused of treason and rape, been tear-gassed and beaten up.
And it is guns that sustain them in power. That's what we are trying to change.
Last February, it was the 4th time he was running for president against Museveni.
To Ivory Coast next, and an emotional homecoming for a first wave of refugees on their way back from Guinea. They're among some 50,000 people forced abroad by the violence which followed 2010's disputed presidential election. Our correspondents Arnaud Froger and Anna Sylvestre were there as the group arrived by plane in Ivory Coast's main city, Abidjan.
It's a journey that's taken years to complete. For these Ivorians, it was almost overwhelming to be finally home.
I've really missed Ivory Coast. While I was away, I really missed it.
Faustin escaped the violence of the 2010 crisis. He was 20 and lost his father in the conflict. Others left during an attempted coup 14 years ago.
I'm so happy to come back to my country. In 2002, when I left, I was a baby. I didn't even really know where my country was. Now I'm going to meet with all my family. I'm happy.
Democratic elections, a return to peace, but also the calls of the government convinced these refugees to come home.
This is part of reconciliation. I want to reassure everyone no one will be arrested. The good news is that even soldiers who were labelled as deserters can come back home. That's the president's message.
Before seeing their relatives, there's paperwork to get through. There is help available to ease these people back into a country that's changed so much since they've been away.
What sort of training would you be interested in?
Electrician.
Faustin's apprenticeship will take place near his family home in the west of the country. It's the middle of the night when his uncle comes to get him.
He's really changed, but straight away I recognized him. He's family. I'd recognize him anywhere.
There are 50,000 Ivorians still living as refugees, 7,000 are in Guinea. More repatriations are expected over the coming days.
Some African news in brief now, and more than 50 people have been killed in renewed violence in South Sudan. Images here of those displaced by the fighting. It came in the remote town of Wau, some 650 kilometres northwest of the capital, Juba. Local church official says the clashes pitted government forces against a new rebel group. They come just months after former insurgents signed a peace deal designed to end the country's civil war. On Tuesday, officials have warned of the formation of a new rebel organisation with an Islamic fundamentalist agenda. Court in Angola has ordered the conditional release of 17 young activists jailed 3 months ago for rebellion against President José Eduardo dos Santos. Among them, rapper Luati Berra, who'd been on hunger strike. The group were arrested last year during a book club meeting where one of the featured texts was about non-violent resistance to repressive regimes. Dos Santos has ruled the oil-rich nation with an iron fist since coming to power in 1979. A proud day for Ethiopian Airlines. They've been showing off their newest acquisition, an Airbus 350. A first for the African continent. It's arrived after a maiden flight from the European manufacturer's base in the French city of Toulouse. Ethiopian Airlines, Africa's biggest carrier in terms of both revenue and profit. The new aircraft, one of 14 Airbus planes ordered to help modernise and expand their fleet. Now, the United Nations Security Council has decided to strengthen peacekeeping operations in Mali in the wake of a series of attacks on personnel. Mali's been struggling to turn the page on the 2012 jihadist takeover of its north that triggered a French-led military intervention. For more, we can talk to our correspondent at the UN in New York, Jessica Le Mesurier. Good evening to you, Jessica. What kind of a difference does it hope this new deployment will make?
Well, this mandate makes the mission much more robust. It was voted on unanimously. It adds some 2,500 extra peacekeepers and troops, bringing the total number of UN peacekeepers in Mali up from more than 11,000 to more than 13,000. It's hoped that that increase in troops will help in the fight against terrorism, because this peacekeeping mission in Mali is, you could say, quite unique. It's the only one that's really tackling terrorism head on, and that is an extremely difficult task. The French ambassador François Delattre, who is currently presiding over the UN Security Council for the month, said that this mandate makes the mission more robust, and it also adds highly specialised European contingents. In that, he was referring to some 650 German troops who will be sent to Mali to bolster the force there. With them, they will take aerial drones and also some transport planes to help in the fight there. When he says more robust, what does he mean? Well, this mission is going to be able to use all necessary measures in combating terrorism. In UN jargon, that is code for essentially being able to use force to protect civilians and to protect, indeed, those in the MINUSMA force. This is the deadliest UN force, UN peacekeeping mission in the world. Just this year alone, 27 peacekeepers have been killed. Since it was formed back in July 2013, more than 100 peacekeepers have been killed in Mali.
Jessica Le Mesurier in New York, thanks for talking to us. Finally, his novel, The Fisherman, was shortlisted for the famous Man Booker Prize, and Nigerian author Chigozie Obioma is here in Paris. His book comes out in French. Franz Van Katz, Nicolas Jamin and Jean Barret caught up with him.
Chigozie Obioma, the author of The Fisherman, is only 29. A few days ago, he was on the front page of France's most prestigious newspaper, Le Monde. His first novel has been translated into more than 20 languages.
If you come from a country like Nigeria and you say, I want to be a writer, when that happened to me, my parents were kind of afraid for me. Are you consigning yourself to this life of penury? So, but then finally I took that gamble, and it seems to have worked out fine. So it is a relief that I have not wasted my, my life.
The Fisherman tells the story of how a tight-knit Nigerian family gradually came undone after one madman's prophecy. The New York Times says Obioma is the heir to Nigeria's greatest writer, Chinua Achebe, the author of Things Fall Apart, who died 3 years ago.
What he looked at was that he was trying to give an African narrative of what our civilization was like pre-colonial. You know, it was a response to Conrad's argument that the Africans had no culture. So what I'm trying to do in The Fisherman has been to, you know, now chart the course of, now that we have a country born out of Western civilization, how have we managed it? So it's like a continuation of where Things Fall Apart left off.
While in Paris, Chigozie Obioma tells us he's happy to travel the world to promote his book and meet readers. We ask him what his next novel will be about.
Someone said that, you know, your book is a little bit violent, even though it's about brothers and brotherly love. Why don't you write a cheerful story? So I'm taking them up on that, and I'm writing a love story. So that's the much that I can give away right now.
In a few days, Chigozie Obioma will fly back to the US, where he's a university professor. But he tells us he misses Nigeria and will probably return one day to the land that inspires him.
That's it for Eye on Africa. Do stay with us here on France Fan Cap. More news coming up very shortly.